So, something you may not know about me is I love video games. And a specific franchise I've always loved and had a soft spot for is the Resident Evil franchise. Now, a few weeks ago, Resident Evil 9 Requiem came out. Now, I have not got the chance to physically play it because I do not have a new gen system. That's okay. I have, however, watched the playthrough of the game. Absolutely incredible. 10 out of 10. No notes from me, someone who didn't get to play it. But it got me thinking, what if Resident Evil characters were wrestlers? I know. So if you don't know, every week on the ShElite Showcase podcast, I do a question of the week. And usually it's something like wrestlers as insert random thing here. I wanted to kind of do a new take on that today with this. Now, this is just going to be a separate video, as you can see, not attached to the podcast. Just something I wanted to do because it's been running around in my brain ever since I watched the gameplay of Requiem. I will preface this is mainly the video game characters, not the movie characters. Because some of these characters who are very prominent in the games are not in the movies or have very, very small roles in the movies. Now, let's start with number 1. Leon S. Kennedy. He has been in Resi 2, Resi 4, I believe Resi 5 and 6, and came back for Resi 9. And if you know this character, he has a lot of one-liners. He's a punny guy. He aura farms, like, a lot, you know? And so I was trying to think of wrestlers who do the same thing, kind of. They aura farm. Leon does a lot of kicks. So, someone who uses a kick in the repertoire. This was the one that I was this kind of started this idea in my brain. Leon S. Kennedy equals Seth freaking Rollins. If you think about it, it makes so much sense. I don't know what it is. I think it literally is just the aura forming of it all. And it works so well. And also, Leon in Resi 9, good lord. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I mean, listen, if we do a Hear Me Out cake, Leon from Resi 9 is going on the Hear Me Out cake. I'm just saying. Leon is very prominent in the games. He's in one of the Resident Evil movies. And that pisses me off. It's fine. Everything's fine. Next. This man was in Resident Evil 1. He was in 5 and 6. I'm not sure about 5. I know 6 for sure. Showed up at the end of 7 and is playable for the last quarter of 8, which is Village. And he gets mentioned in 9. And that is Chris Redfield. Big Daddy Wolf. The squad in the BSAA is the Wolves. So that, if you play the game, you know, and I'm not just saying it to be weird. I promise. But Chris is this big, hulking man. He was a STARS officer in the first game to, can't remember if it's 5 or 6, where he quite literally punches a boulder. Yeah, that happened in the games. The games kind of jumped the shark here and there. And that's okay. I mean, why not? So does wrestling. Wrestling jumps the shark. But with Chris being such an imposing force, and you find out through like phone calls and things, like he is the reason the protagonist Ethan in 7, which is Biohazard, he helps him with everything in 8, which is Village. It's a whole thing. Chris is kind of a puppeteer, but not in like a bad way. The wrestler I thought of I used to call him a gaslighting girl boss on the podcast, and that's Roman Reigns, our tribal chief. Also a big hulking man. Again, it makes sense. It just, in my brain, that comparison made the most sense. While I keep going, let me know what wrestlers you think are these specific Resident Evil characters, or if you have other characters I may not mention, let me know below. I can do another one of these, or if you have other ideas for characters, just feel free to put in the comments below, please. Now, next, we have Chris's sister, Claire Redfield, who is in Resi 2. She's in... Also, I would like to mention before I continue, I'm mainly talking the main 9 games. No Code Veronica, no Resident Evil 0, none of those, because I don't know much about the lore of those games, and I never played those ones. So that's why, if these characters are prominent in those ones, I'm not mentioning them. Just letting you know. But Claire is in 2. She's in 5? And I know she's in 6. And then that's it. Like, Claire Redfield doesn't get utilized the way she should. And that sucks. Because, again, I talk about Chris being this huge, quite literally, man in the franchise, and his sister doesn't get as much recognition. Fans love Claire Redfield. I mean, some of us do. And in the movies, she's played by Ali Larter, which, pop off, that's a huge win. But she's only in a few movies as well, and that's... The Resident Evil movies irritate me in like a good and a bad way. But so, thinking about Claire, I was like, okay, well, who had some prominent things, but kind of blended into the background or didn't really get the chance to shine again? Now, granted, she might come Resident Evil 10 whenever that comes out. Hopefully, by the time it does, I have a system to play it. But we don't know the premise or anything for 10 yet. 9, like I said, just came out a few weeks ago. So I thought, now there are 2 gender-bended characters I have on here, and this is the first one. I thought of Jey Uso. Now, it might be a little different from how the gameplay is, but Jey started out as one of the Usos. Kind of, people quite literally mistook him for his twin, Jimmy, all of the time. Still do, sometimes. But even when it was a family affair with Roman and the whole bloodline, Jey was puppeteered by Roman. And then he gets his big moment. So I kind of thought of it as Claire gets some huge moments in 2. When you play as Claire, you save Sherry Birkin, who shows up again at 9. And you have, like, that specific part of the game to cure her and everything. These games are buck wild, by the way. So I thought Jey could be an interesting Claire, not utilized to their potential. I mean, if you're on wrestling Twitter, you will think that Jey Uso is pushed to the moon constantly. And it's a whole thing. I recommend, If you can, stay off wrestling Twitter. It's a nightmare. Moving on to another character who was in Resident Evil 1. She's in Resi 3. And I believe 6. 6, I think, has everyone for the most part. Like Leon, Chris, Claire, and Jill Valentine. And Wesker, who I will get to in a minute. But Jill is a badass. She has to look. If you play the games and you play Resi 3, you have to take on Nemesis, who is just this big, hulking man. He's huge and scary. Granted, Claire's to deal with Mr. X in the police station, and that's also a pain in the ass. But yeah, no, Jill is a badass, and she gets to showcase it quite a bit. But again, she's one of those ones we haven't seen since 6, and I would love for her to get the chance to do more. Now, for this wrestler, I thought, well, she's had plenty of opportunities. She's been around for quite some time, but recently she's been not getting the opportunities that she deserves, and that's Bailey. I did struggle figuring out Claire and Jill for wrestlers because it was a little hard because they did kind of seem similar-ish in the fact that both women, both are women in this franchise that are main characters, but not fully main characters. Granted, I know come Resident Evil 7, it's a whole new protagonist, and your only tie to the original games is Chris. So I understand that. And same thing with 8, and then 9, you get Leon back. So it was kind of hard for me to think of Claire and Jill. But I think Bailey has been around forever. She had such a huge rise, especially in NXT, and a little bit on the main roster. But then she got taken out of WrestleMania last year. Now, let's get to our first antagonist of the series. Albert Wesker. This man is in the first game and is on the Stars team with Chris and Jill. And you find out that he is actually working with Umbrella, who, for those who don't know, are the big bad of like the entire franchise, game and movies. So he was working with Umbrella and betrays your team. And then you find out that he's just a POS the rest of the series until his inevitable death. Because I feel like in the Resident Evil games, no one's truly dead. As we saw with... okay, so I guess it was like recordings of Oswald Spencer. So it's kind of different, but I digress. Yeah, Wesker... again, you think is on your side for the longest time in the first game, and then switches on you. And our second gender bend, I decided to go with Naomi. I was specifically thinking of when she attacked Jade Cargill. She attacks Jade, acts like Liv Morgan did it. She's very much hellbent on finding Jade's attacker, still teaming with Bianca, keeping those women's tag titles. Naomi played a lot of mind games, and she was so damn good at it. Wesker is the same way. Wesker is a smooth talker, a villain. Naomi played her heel work so well. When she comes back from having that baby, heel Naomi is going to be in full force, and I'm so excited for whenever that gets to happen. And just... if you think about Wesker in the movies, too, I know I'm going games, but Wesker in the movies, he's such a good villain, and Naomi is too. It makes sense in my mind. Okay. Next, I'm gonna go Ada Wong. I believe Ada, I know she's in Resi 2, but I don't recall her being in any of the other games. She's also, how do I put it? She's not a main character, but her and Leon got something going on. Like, they kind of high-key flirt with each other the entire time they're always on screen. So the sexual tension is there between the two of them in these games. Ada's also in the movies, in case anybody was wondering. But Ada she's a spy. She double crosses. I would like to call a honeypot. Granted, I don't know if they're actually referring to her as this, but it kind of just makes it in my brain because of who I picked, and that's Blake Monroe, formerly known as Mariah May. The woman from hell that she's currently doing in NXT, being Toni Storm's protege and then turning on her. I mean, that's a spy. And she uses her sex appeal to her advantage. And I feel Ada does the same. I'm not saying that in a bad way, in any way, shape, or form. That's smart. And like I said, feel free to let me know what you guys think. Okay? I have two more, and these characters are both from Resident Evil 8 Village, which is the last Resident Evil game I played, and it is such a fun game to play. Atmospherically, it's beautiful. Ethan as a protagonist is really cool. And you've basically 5 bosses in the game. And the last boss before you get to Mother Miranda is Hesienbger. Hesienbger is probably the toughest out of the 4 bosses. Granted, Lady D, Monroe, and Bienvenido are crazy, each in their own right. And I'll get to one of them. I didn't do all 4, but Hesienbger is definitely the hardest boss to beat besides Mother Miranda. And he's kind of an a-hole. I think it's the way he talks. Whoever did the voice acting for Hesienbger nailed it, like, extremely well. So I was going based off of that, like the tone of voice he has, and him thinking he's the best of the 4, and how he doesn't need the other 3, and how he's Mother Miranda's favorite. So who thinks that they're better than everyone? And we know it. MJF. It just makes sense. I highly recommend people listen to or watch clips of Hesienbger from Resi 8 and then listen to MJF talk. They're kind of similar. I think I might have cooked with that one, if I'm gonna be honest with myself for a second. That one, I wasn't originally even going to do Hesienbger, but I wanted a few more characters, and I was like, oh, well, Hesienberg's a fantastic character. It kind of gives Nick Cage in a way, but I feel like MJF is like the perfect Hesienbger. Again, tell me if you think I'm wrong, or who you think. And finally, she is the first boss you see in Resi 8. She took the internet by storm when gameplay came out, and you see this very tall, gorgeous vampire woman, Lady Dimitrescu, with her 3 daughters, they're all vampires, essentially. Lady D was deemed, of course I lose my voice when I start talking about this, Lady D was deemed on the interwebs mommy. So who in wrestling do we call mommy? Rhea Ripley. It makes sense to me. They are both very tall, empowering, strong women with a temper. Rhea's got a little bit of a temper. If you've watched any of her matches with like Liv Morgan or even Raquel or Shayna in NXT, she's got a hot streak of being vicious. Lady D at one point throws a table across the room because she's mad that Mother Miranda, or no, she's mad that Ethan escaped Hesienbger in the very beginning of the game. So she fully throws a desk across the room. And she has this weird claw thing. It's like kind of her hand. Lady Dimitrescu is insane and hot and beautiful and scary. So is Rhea Ripley. I saved that for last because it made me laugh the most. But please feel free to let me know who you think all of these Resi characters would be in the wrestling world, or vice versa. Or again, if there are any characters that I may have missed or you want me to discuss as wrestlers, please feel free to let me know. Also, like the video, subscribe, and I hope you guys have enjoyed. This was something a little different that I wanted to try out. So thank you guys for watching. Until then, bye-bye.